Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Johnny Appleseed Organic Village. Today I'm here with Shani McCabe from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and we're going to plant some beets. Now, like many of you, I used to hate the taste of beets because, a common complaint, they taste like dirt, right? But they do have a lot of health benefits, especially with the production of nitric oxide in the body, which is good for lifting, which I like to do. And so I forced myself to eat them. And Shani's going to explain, I think, a little bit of why they taste that way and also why they're so good for us.
Right, beets do have that earthy flavor.
That's one way of putting it.
Well, it's especially compounded when they're put into a can and served soggy cold out of the can. That's the worst way to eat them. Roasting them is best. That funky flavor is caused by a chemical compound naturally occurring that's called geosmin, and it's actually also present in actual dirt. So the smell of dirt is because it actually has one of the same chemical compounds, and it's called geosmin. But beets are incredibly good for you when prepared properly. They're delicious, and most importantly, they're super easy to grow.
And that's what we're here to do today. This is the next in our series of Planting 101 videos, where we're going to start them in the spring, which is what time of year it is now, and then track it all the way through till harvest, and then hopefully cooking something that doesn't taste like dirt. So with that being said, I think we're ready to get started.
Okay, great. So, number one, before you start thinking about planting beets, if you are super averse to the flavor of beets, you might try a different variety than the standard purple. You could try golden beets. They're actually lower in geosmin. They don't taste as earthy. So if you want to start, a good beginner beet, you might try the golden beet. This variety is called Kyoga. It's also a little bit less earthy flavor, a little bit easier beginner beet. This one also has exceptionally good beet greens, those tops, because those are edible. They're just like spinach or Swiss chard. So first we choose our variety. The next step is timing. Beet seeds actually are fairly cold tolerant, so you can plant them out before your last frost date. Beets don't love a lot of heat and intense sun, especially if you're in a southern area, so planting them out a little bit early before that frost is actually a great idea. If you're up farther north, it's not as imperative to make sure that they get out early. So you want to direct sow beets. They can be started in trays and transplanted out into the garden. That's a possibility too, but we're going to direct seed today. One thing that's great about beets is they're a compact plant and they're pretty versatile as in where they could grow. So we can grow them in the field, in the farm, or we can grow them right here in a little pot on our patio. So today we're going to do a container planting of beets. And I think you should observe what a beet seed looks like. Is this the first time you've seen a beet seed?
It is. I actually didn't know that beets could be grown from seeds. I thought they were like other root vegetables where you just sort of had the root, and that was also, you know what I mean, how you propagated it. So I didn't know there was such a thing as beet seeds.
Absolutely. Beets are grown from seed. Yes, absolutely. So check out one of these seeds and let me know what you think.
Interesting.
They're really funky looking, right? They look like these little fused together capsules, and indeed, one single beet seed is actually several seeds fused together. So when we plant them, we're going to put them 2 inches apart in the soil, but as they sprout, you're going to notice that you're getting way more sproutlings than you planted, and that's because there are several seeds fused together. So later on, you're going to come through and you're going to thin them.
Now, we should note that we're doing this planting today in a 45-gallon grow bag. If you've watched some of our other videos, we've sort of already talked about the intricacies of how these are done. But just to recap briefly, we have already filled the bottom half of this with some really, I would say, probably 2-inch diameter limestone gravel or rocks. The purpose for that is to help it drain well. You really want to be careful when you're using these grow bags that you do create a well-draining environment because they have a tendency to really hold water at the bottom. And that's another reason, exactly. And it's another reason why we've located it on this pallet. That's for a lot of reasons. First of all, airflow underneath. Second of all, because we're going to want to move it once we're done with this video.
So we're going to do 2 inches apart. And we're actually going to come in and we're going to thin to 4 inches apart once they start sprouting. Also, it's important to thin out. As I said before, these seeds are several seeds fused into one capsule. And while beets do tolerate a good amount of crowding, they do grow a bit better when they're less crowded. So we're going to give them exactly what they want. We're really going to baby them, and we're going to come in and we're going to thin out those clusters of seeds that are stuck all together. But what's important is you let them sprout, and then you don't even pull to thin, because that would disturb the other roots. You're actually going to come in with scissors. But we're probably going to demonstrate that in our next video. So we won't worry too much about that. I'm having fun planting these in concentric rings. You can, of course, plant them in rows, but like I said, make sure to get them 1-2 inches apart, and then thin to 3 or 4 inches apart. That way they've got some room to grow. Their shoulders aren't bumping up against each other. Some people do like to grow them super close, and that's fine. I've just found that when they have a little bit more space, they can get to be really, really large. You can also choose to harvest your beets at various sizes: baby, medium, and super large. A few extra notes about what beets like. Beets do like fairly rich soil. They love consistent moisture. We're not going to keep them soaking wet, but giving them consistent moisture so they don't dry out between waterings is nice. Consistent moisture, rich soil. They like full to partial sun. They are one of the more shade-tolerant vegetables, especially when you're growing super far down south and you've got really hot summers. They will tolerate a bit more shade than some other vegetables that really like sun. Medium shade tolerant, love rich soil. They like consistent moisture, but they are overall a fairly easy to grow crop. And don't forget to thin them out so that they get a bit more space, and eat those greens. You can eat those thinnings. They're actually really delicious.
All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video on starting your beets in spring. Again, check back with us as the season continues, because we're going to do a whole series of these leading up all the way to harvest, and indeed cooking a dish with our beets. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll subscribe to the Johnny Appleseed Organic YouTube page, as well as check us out on Instagram.
And then check out Baker Creek Seeds. We're Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And then we have a YouTube channel called Rare Seeds.
Thanks again. See you guys next time.